Hey, everybody. Really intriguing discussion today on what's next for compliance, AI, and data protection, data privacy with Ignite. Kris, how are you?
I'm doing good, Evan. Good to be here. How are you?
I'm well for a Monday. Thanks for joining. I hope you have some lovely weather in the Bay Area. It's spring here in Boston as well. We're going to dive into all things AI, cybersecurity, data protection, and beyond. But first, maybe some introductions. I'm intrigued by you and your background as a co-founder and CSO at Ignite. But you've been with the company on this mission for almost 20 years. That's amazing. Did you start when you were 13, or what was the big idea when you started?
Thanks for that intro, Evan. Yeah, I mean, it has been a long and interesting ride. Like you said, we are Ignite's actually a content. We call ourselves an intelligent content platform that enables companies to protect and manage their business critical data. All that really
Mm,
means is we have a really unique way in which we provide content collaboration along with data protection and governance. And that feeds right into your question is when we started back in 2007, 2008, the world was still trying to grapple with cloud and what became digital transformation. And, this predates the iPhone and mobility and all those types of things, right? But so what started purely out as a way to do better collaboration now has a stronger focus on collaboration, yes, but with more security, more governance, and along came all the other things about privacy and cyber attacks and all of that. So yeah, I mean, even though it's been whatever 16 years, every day is like a new day, and there's a lot of cool things happening in our world. So it's been an exciting ride.
yeah, indeed. And I'm so thrilled to have an expert like yourself here. We were talking briefly about RSA, the big RSAC conference that'll be in San Francisco in just a short number of weeks. Maybe they should rename it though, the RSAI show, because AI's impact on cybersecurity is going to be probably the number one topic. And as an expert, you'll be there, and I think you'll have a strong presence as well. So maybe in advance of that, describe some of the key ways AI is impacting, transforming cybersecurity operations positively, negatively, and the opportunity versus the challenge that you see.
Yeah, Evan, one of the things is, nowadays there's no conversation either with customers or with folks like yourself or with any conferences that AI can be ignored, right? So it's a massive change. There are all kinds of metaphors being used, comparisons to what the internet and mobility and all of that. Some of it are all valid, right? But as a security practitioner myself, I have, let's call it a dual, a love-hate relationship on this side of the house, right? Um, I'm definitely seeing the ways in which Gen AI, right? Again, I want to be very clear that AI has been around for, I don't know, maybe 50 years, right? The purists on AI will go back to papers going back, to early computing about how AI has
Mm,
always been there. So let's be very specific. Gen AI, which is the current trend, is impacting cybersecurity in quite a negative way in many simple forms that we are seeing, right? Things like phishing emails that, over the
mm,
years we've been so used to seeing and all of that, and we've been training our users and everybody to say, hey, keep an eye out for incorrectly worded emails or typos in emails and all of that, and that's a clear giveaway that there's something wrong here. Those are going away. Gen AI is helping all these attackers come up with
mm.
fantastically worded, very clean emails and all of that. So that's one. Then there are all kinds of other things about how the AI technology itself is helping these guys, the malicious actors, let's say, for better password guessing, or them being able to use just like or bypass just standard off the shelf tools, right? So that's the bad side. But on the good side, it's helping our teams, my team in particular, be able to deal with the onslaught of amount at the end of the day, AI really helps cut through a large amount of data and being able to identify patterns and predicting threats and being able to even evaluate attacks and all that in a much faster way. So I would say that for sure it's helping people, both sides of the line, like the
Mm.
bad actors and the good ones. But hopefully, it's keeping things interesting. Like we said, it's never done on the cybersecurity side. There's always more happening here. So it helps my team kind of scale up, do better training, do all of those things, again using these AI tools. So that's my love hate relationship on this
I got it.
on this
No, that
platform.
makes so much sense. Very practical philosophy there. And let's dive in a little deeper to the compliance subject. I mean, you're trusted by like 22,000, 20 more content critical businesses, and compliance is really fundamental for deploying your platform and for their day-to-day business. But what does Gen AI mean for their compliance concerns? What vulnerabilities does that add? And then you throw in regulation, GDPR, and all kinds of other 3 and 4 letter acronyms. It gets a little complicated. So, what's your
Yes.
thinking when it comes to compliance in business?
Yeah, no, this is a really, really important topic, and I don't want to go off on a rant on this, but let me unpack a few things out here. Right, one is we know that all the Gen AI models that are out there, right, the new models, and there's all kinds of discussions around LLMs and even SLMs and all of that. But at the end of the day, all of those things are based on training data. They train their models and everything based on data. And most people are really worried about where is that line of sensitive data, right? Some data is publicly available on the internet, no problem. All training models can go do it. But then there is discussions that we see about copyrighted information, and is Reddit charging or should Google charge and all of that. That goes down a very different path, which is being discussed quite deeply. But at the end of the day, right, that's exactly where all discussions are. Is like, hey, is my sensitive data being used, or is it now out in the open, right? So for us as a content collaboration platform, where we spend a lot of time is in what came out like unrelated to AI from the GDPR side, is this concept of privacy by design, right? And I'll get to that in a little bit as we discuss more privacy related aspects of it. But the idea for a content collaboration platform for us is to say that even while we leverage any of these AI capabilities and all of that, we have to be very careful about how that's set up, right? Who gets what type of data? We never leak any customer information or sensitive information into a training model. And the way the engineers need to set this up, the pipelines and all of that, they have to pay attention to these types of things. There's also other things around, what in the security world is known as privilege escalation. Is just because, and
Mm,
this is the world of authorization, just because you have access to one type of data doesn't automatically through AI tools now allow you access to get to a different level of data that you never had, right? So
mm,
that permission model, that authorization level and all of that, those are the types of things that we have to pay a lot of attention to as we are adopting AI technologies and providing, the productivity benefits and everything from there, right? Um, of course, this then eventually leads into all the privacy related discussions as well. Is like, so how do you go about doing this, right? Like you have to put in um, tokenization and really leverage this whole privacy by design concept, which I was referring to earlier, to prevent some type of a leakage of this, regardless of what tool you use, right? So all the info that you hear about OpenAI and now open source tools from Meta or Claude, these are all large models. They can be leveraged to your benefit, but how you use them and to what end is really important to pay attention to, especially from the privacy discussion. Now, once you do the privacy discussion, that's where the compliance also kicks in, right? Because
Mm.
you are required to be compliant to a certain, I mean, the privacy standards are the big ones, more globally known, but every industry has some type of a compliance requirement that the regulators of their industry put forth. And at the end of the day, it's really still how you handle the data, how you interact with these other tools that you pay attention to, basically.
Oh, really well said. Very helpful. And speaking of data privacy, you're familiar with the legislation that's around the U.S. Data Privacy Bill and other measures in California and many other places. These are clearly necessary, but are they sufficient to address all the concerns around AI and privacy?
um, Well, I'll first speak about privacy and then like maybe work in the AI angle of it. For sure, this APRA, the American
Hmm.
Privacy Rights Act, right, that came out. It's GDPR is 5 years old in 2023. It'll be 6 years this year, right, since it went live. And since then, since it was really active and live and being used in Europe, there was always this thing that, hey, the US needs to come up with a federal privacy bill. So this is the first one. This has been discussed ever since GDPR went live. And while we were still not acting on a federal policy on this, California and, like, I think there are now 15 or probably 17 states that made their own regulation. So 6 years later, my problem with this is still not law, right? This is still being discussed. There are lots of back and forth in terms of, hey, is it good enough? And the bigger problem is there are states like California, where we are based, that have already taken more action on CCPA and CPRA. So some people feel like the APRA is falling short of what California is already doing. So I think this is an opportunity to clean this up and get rid of the confusion. Like for example, once the APRA goes live, what does it mean to CCPA or people that are already doing with taking action on the CCPA CPRA? So I think there's still a little bit of confusion, which I don't really like. um i I absolutely support a federal bill, just like GDPR. Just get it done with already, right? is
Mm.
is my take on it. But I feel this is an opportunity to clean that up. That's a general privacy thing. I think this is applicable even outside of AI. I think what's going on with AI and this concept of, hey, who really gets these rights, and how did this model pick up this data? Like, did I ever really provide rights for this model to learn from my data? I think that's probably escalating this discussion a little bit more. So I think it's timely. I just feel or really hope that we get this thing done one way or the other. There's going to be lots of debates and discussions, but I really want to see a federal bill that is passed, and then we can go about our business on doing this without debating it on this state versus that specific.
Well said. Very, very practical approach there. And speaking of security of AI models, businesses are already starting to train, LLMs with their private enterprise data. Full speed ahead, I guess, in some cases, more than others. But what are the security implications for that in a real way today?
Yeah, no, what for a company like us, and I know you mentioned we've got more than 22,000 customers. It's a very horizontally applicable product that we have at Egnyte, but we have some deep focus in specific industry verticals. For example, we are deeply have lots of solutions for what's referred to as the AEC, the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, or life sciences, which is,
Mm,
like in the healthcare business. As you can imagine, each of these industries have their own specific regulations. Life sciences, for example, probably has HIPAA regulations, and there are many others as well, like FDA has their own things there. What that means for us is we need to get whatever AI tool we are using at the back end, whether it ends up being something from Google or OpenAI or anything like that, we have to first collaborate very closely with our customers in terms of what it is that we are trying to do. There are some, I almost call it table stake AI capabilities now that every product offers, like, oh, document summarization, or a
mm.
chat bot type of a thing where you ask questions and all of that, right? Almost all tools are doing that, including I'm pretty sure you leverage many tools in your work about how you can do better summarization of podcasts and other things like that, right? So that's happening, excuse me, quite extensively. But where we are paying a lot of attention is in what's known as knowledge base, and think of it more as specific use cases for the industry, right? So here you now need to get a little more vertical relevant, right? Like just using a generic LLM tool sometimes is okay, but the results come out to be better if it's more targeted or more focused to that industry. So how, and the only way that happens is by really collaborating with your customer. So we have to partner with them. They provide us a lot of feedback. Like for example, a customer we are working with in the finance industry, and as you can imagine, has really complicated Excel files with multiple worksheets and all of that. How do you provide knowledge base that actually gives the AI capabilities that they are looking for within that context become important? So that's where we are spending a lot of time working with our customers, building AI solutions that are really applicable to their industry, right? And that's where these training, what type of data is okay for training, what type of data is available only to that customer, right? And it doesn't matter if there's another customer in the same industry, they have to kind of train the model or train the AI for their own data set. So we pay a lot of attention to that differentiation of how we are bringing this to our customers.
Oh, really thoughtful approach. Experimenting is always good, but in a, constrained way. Certainly. Let's talk about the risk landscape that you see. Shadow IT is still a huge problem, maybe getting worse with SaaS and cloud sprawl and other things. How do you look at shadow IT, that what trending these days? Is it getting worse? So do you have a handle on it? And, how do you think about that when it comes to AI tools, which are increasingly
Yeah.
being used outside of the, corporate governance structure?
No, this is a really important question, Evan. As the chief security officer of the company, we are almost 1,100 employees at Ignite,
Mm.
and shadow IT is as real as when it was originally termed. And the one thing that I have learned over the years is why shadow IT exists. And I've seen both sides of this. There have been the draconian view of chasing down shadow IT and shutting it down. IT putting in very strong policies and monitoring and blocking it and all of that. And honestly, the only thing that I've seen, especially post pandemic now, where everybody is in this hybrid work model where they're working from home, they're working from offices, it's an impossible task to fight shadow IT with a draconian view of saying I'm not going to allow it. I think it's much better, in my opinion, to at least embrace this and understand what is it that your customer or your user is really trying to do, right? In the AI world, I think where it helps, and this is where we are leaning heavily on, is providing the appropriate guidelines. Right? We say that, look, it's okay. You can use Chat GPT and all that for any personal stuff that you're doing, no problem. Right? Create poems or figure out travel itineraries to whatever, no problem. Use any of your publicly available AI tools. But when it comes to company or work related stuff, there's a lot of training, there are a lot of guidelines on what is okay, what's not, in terms of how they use it, and also provide the appropriate tools. For example, we know about the AI code co-pilots, let's call it, right, in a broad term. About there's GitHub Copilot, there are lots of such co-pilots, which can appear to write really good code, but then they have to understand that you cannot just blindly accept what an AI tool is giving you because it probably looks cleaner and all of that, because a lot of this at the end of the day needs it, it could have other implications downstream. So it does not absolve a person from using an AI tool and saying, oh, AI created this code, so it must be correct. I think there must be other layers that come in from within the engineering side. Similarly, in completely non-engineering functionality, right? Just because AI wrote you an email doesn't necessarily mean you just cut and paste that into what you're doing without paying that level of human oversight, right? So these guidelines of how do you go about using it, I feel will help deal with shadow IT. If we were to say no, you cannot use it, I'm 100% sure that they'll figure out some other way of doing it, and you'll only be chasing people down to say, oh, how did you do this, why did you do it, and all that. Instead, if we kind of bring them into the fold, show them some cases about where does this really mess up and how can you identify things and do it, I think most of our employees and other users are more, I would say, amenable to that view. So that's really my view of how you go about this shadow IT as far as AI is concerned.
Wow, great answer there. Really interesting. So we have RSA coming up. Anything you're particularly excited about, interested in learning or sharing? And what's some of the takeaways that you hope to have from
Well,
the
I'm
big
I'm
event?
curious to see what the theme at this time's conference is. Our RSA conferences, always have a their main thing is where world talks security, right? But every year there ends up being a predominant like theme. Over the years that we've been going to RSA, it's been ransomware and sometimes nation
Hmm.
state attacks at other times. I am not going to be surprised that it'll be a lot of AI stuff here. What I'm really looking forward to see are how are security vendors adopting AI technologies to help their user base. Honestly, like we obviously leverage a lot of security tools in providing our solution to our customers. But I'm looking forward to seeing, is there any cool new tech or other things to be aware of in both sides. Like RSA also has some interesting cases about where they show how certain things were used maliciously, and the learning from there is what can we do to identify such things. So yeah, I'm short answer is I think it'll be all AI in security, but I'm curious to see what the different providers and all are doing about this, and any new announcements that come up, I'll keep my eye out.
And hopefully some new announcements from Ignite. I'm sure you have something under the hood that you'll be sharing. I won't ask you to spoil the announcement, but we'll keep an eye out. Um,
Absolutely, yes. I think since we also have a booth, we have many of our customers stop by. It's an excellent place just because of, now post pandemic there, I think a lot of people are traveling. So we are excited to be there and meet our customers and partners and other folks there at the show.
so as a co-founder and principal and CSO, how do you balance spending your time, and what are you looking forward to this year? You have internal challenges and management to do, external stuff like RSA. It must be an interesting balancing act.
It is, but obviously it's it's not a solo thing anymore, right? Being a co-founder, I still remember where you pretty much had to do a lot of things by yourself. 16 years in, and at 1,100 employees, we have excellent teams that manage to do a lot of stuff for us, and we really, I think my main North Star is to do right by our customer, right?
Hmm.
Protecting our customers' data is the crown jewels. That's what we spend, at least I spend most of my time and my team's time on, right? But again, we are in at least six different countries, I would say, from where our
Hmm.
employee base is. And, post pandemic, it's not just a few offices either and all of that. So just keeping up with our employees and making sure that they are doing all the right things, from just regular like security hygiene is important too. So I work pretty closely with our IT teams and internal teams as well. But North Star is still keeping our customers' data safe and everything we can do about that.
Well, that was a mic drop moment. So thanks so much for joining us, Kris. Really intriguing insight into your world, and look forward to meeting up at RSA. And that applies to anyone watching. Look forward to seeing you there. It would be great to see San Francisco. Hopefully, things are a little more buoyant in the city as spring hits. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Evan. Thanks. This was a great
Thanks,
session.
Kris. Thanks, everyone, for